Okay, January 23rd, welcome to the Select Board meeting, 5:30 at Memorial Town Hall. Announcements, again, next week, January 29th at 7 p.m., the special town meeting to discuss the 5 articles. We'll be discussing some of those articles later. Town Hall, elementary school. Town Hall repairs were completed. We'll be talking about that a little bit later. And Bob Wagner will be here to discuss some of the articles later. But and that's all I have for announcements. Cindy, have any announcements?
Yeah, do you mind if I just do a quick one? I want to thank Chief Dukoshik and Phil Genovese, the director. I finally dragged him downstairs. And Mike Mendick and Mike McGrath from the Housing Authority, we all met downstairs this morning for about an hour with about 20 of the seniors because there had been a lot of issues with the crosswalk out here. And I just want to mention that because a lot of the seniors that were at the initial meeting that I had with them weren't there, so that it is in progress. We're looking at tie and bond when they're doing another project to hopefully repair that. And your concerns have been heard, and we discussed the lines and everything. So,
Nice.
But thank you very much, and thanks for coming.
Brian?
No, I guess I would just like to thank the DPW for the great job they did over the weekend. We finally got some snow, and on top of that, some ice. And you know, the roads are second to none when it comes to road clearing. And I know from a school perspective as well, everything was cleared out in advance of school reopening on Tuesday. So just a shout out to the DPW and the job they do.
Okay, anybody here for public forum? Yes. Again, we don't respond to public forums, so.
Okay. Hi, Christopher Smith, Prospect Street. What I was wondering about is, you know, we keep doing these phases of the town hall, and I know it's come up a few times that we don't have an end game to what ultimately all the parts of the town hall will be used for. I know you're waiting on Council on Aging and so on to decide where they may ultimately end up. But my thinking was maybe it's time to form a committee to study that end game. You know, decide when the elevator's in, what that second floor is going to be used for. Ultimately, if the Council on Aging doesn't stay in the basement, what might happen there? Just something to put on a future agenda, and I'm willing to volunteer to be on the committee. Get you started. But I think that would help because I think people don't know where we're ultimately going with this, and we're obviously putting a lot of money into it. So it would be nice to know how you're fully utilizing this beautiful building. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else here for public forum? If not, we'll move right to our topics. We're going to go out of order. We're going to have Chief Dukoshik come in with his new officer, and I'll let you do the presentation to the town of the new officer, and go right ahead.
Well, I would like to introduce Monica Zerwinski, spelled phonetically, as I was told, and it actually is. So Monica actually is trying to get into nursing school at the present time. And she's looking to, she's a full-time trained officer, has a bachelor's degree in criminal justice and a bachelor's degree in psychology. And she's looking to go to nursing school. So, but she's looking to keep up her credentials, police-wise, and is offering to, you know, come work for us when we need her in a part-time basis. So I was more than happy to oblige her with that. She's local, grew up in Hadley, I believe, right?
Yes.
Went to Hopkins. We won't hold that against her. I'm kind of a Mohawk person anyhow, I hate to say that, but it's where I'm from. But
Her mom went to school here.
I still support Smith. Right now, she lives here in Hatfield. Just had a brand new baby, Janelle. She's lovely. She's got a bit of a hair issue. It sticks up quite a bit. And this is her, I would say fiance, but it's her boyfriend. We won't rush that along. Oh, you're welcome. But at any rate, this is Monica, and if you have any questions for her, feel free to ask. Otherwise, I ask for your support. And
I want to thank you personally for working for the town of Hatfield, and thank you for coming to Hatfield. And I highly respect the chief's recommendation, so I'll make a motion to appoint Monica Zawinski as a police officer of the town of Hatfield.
Second that.
Motion made, motion second. Any discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Well, welcome to
Welcome
town.
aboard.
Thank you for serving the town
Welcome
of
aboard,
Hatfield.
Monica.
While I'm here, does anybody have any questions for the police department or any concerns? Okay.
Sir, thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Right, thank you.
I gave you the paper.
Yeah, okay. I'll sign it right now for you.
Yeah, tomorrow they're signing that.
You need a signature here,
Okay.
there. Okay,
Thank you.
here.
Yep.
Okay, as we're signing this, we'll have come up Select, Matt Shortsleeve from Select Energy about a project at Smith Academy. He's with John Roberts. Actually, both
Thanks,
can
Mike.
come up. You can
you.
give a discussion on what's happening for this project. I know Brian wants to make some
Yeah, well, so what,
comments.
if I may, so while Matt's making his way forward, in my role, still also being on the school committee, Matt has made an in-depth presentation both to the maintenance subcommittee, of which I'm part of, with Chairman Engelhardt as well. The superintendent was there, and Phil from the DPW, and the principal. And then we had a follow-up session where Matt made the formal presentation to the entire school committee, all 5 members of us. And there was overwhelming support to move forward from the school committee to move forward with this solar project at Smith Academy. And I'm sure most of the people in the audience, if you've lived here basically more than 30 years, realize that Smith Academy, when it was built, actually had solar panels on it. So we're kind of going back to our roots, I guess. But we also felt it was important to let the Board of Selectmen as a whole, as well as the townspeople, hear a little bit about the project because our meetings are televised. And so we asked Matt to be here, as well as John Robert, our superintendent, to just kind of give an overview and next steps forward. So thank you. So welcome, Matt.
Thank you. Thank you, Select Board, for the time and the interest. I'm Matt Shortsleeve. I'm with Select Energy. We're a developer, installer, financer, and service provider for solar energy systems in Massachusetts. And we have been awarded an RFP from an energy consortium named Power Options. They're Boston-based membership, not-for-profit, that goes to market to aggregate the purchasing power of its membership, which is primarily public entities and not-for-profits throughout the Commonwealth. And they manage supplier programs for electricity, natural gas, and solar. And I'm our representative from Select Energy. When we were awarded the RFP, we put together a series of cost structures and legal agreements that Select will contract directly with the end customer. So we've been working with primarily local communities and school districts, and now increasingly state buildings as well, and contracting for on-site solar power purchase agreements. And we've made a proposal here to Superintendent Robert and the school committee where Select will contract with the town or with the school committee or the superintendent to buy the electricity off a rooftop solar array for 20 years. They'll also, either your group or the school committee will grant us either a lease or an easement to the property to be able to install and maintain the equipment. We'll do it at our expense throughout the term, and we'll interconnect it to the electric system right at the building, and the building will consume the solar. The proposal is to install about 300 kilowatts on the roof. It'll consume about 60%. It'll offset about 60% of what the school consumes. And we'll do it at a fixed low price for the term of the agreement. It includes maintenance. It includes a budget holding for a pilot agreement with the town of Hatfield, which I've discussed with your town manager earlier. And we're prepared to get going as soon as the school committee and your board signs off on those items. So I'm here to present it to you and answer questions and make sure you have all the information and tell you about, anything you'd like to hear about it.
Okay, well, I mean, you probably answered these questions with the school committee, but for the purpose of the town, one of the first questions that will come up will be the roof. I mean, there is a 30-year warranty on the roof. The roof's like 5 or 6 years, and I know under some commercial buildings, before installations are done, they have to contact the roof company to make sure that the warranty, so and I'm being told there's no penetrations in the roof with your installation, so how does that work with the roof and your installation?
Good question. We take steps to make sure that the roof doesn't get damaged during installation. We do not intend to penetrate the roof, with the exception of maybe one place to bring the electric run home to the electric system. We hire a certified installer of the manufacturer's equipment on the roof, probably Silktown, same outfit that did the work, and have them do a pre-solar installation evaluation. If they find anything wrong, they'll notify the warranty holders that, hey, we found this and we'll go fix it, or this is what it's going to take to go fix it. They'll perform any roofing work or penetrations that we have done as part of the solar scope, like cut, boot, flash, seal. And then when we're done, they'll give us they'll also provide us a post-installation inspection and a report. If there's anything wrong that we caused, we'll fix it or pay to have it fixed, pay them to do it. And then they'll provide a letter from the manufacturer that says that your warranty acknowledges that solar exists on the roof and it'll get regular maintenance during the term, and the warranty remains intact.
Now, this is, the school walks into a fixed rate for, is this 20 years according to what I'm reading?
Yes.
And all maintenance is over that 20-year period? Or how does that work with the inverter? Because the inverter, I notice it says a 10-year warranty on it. Does the town have to pay for a new inverter after 10 years, or
No,
is that
Select-
included part of your package?
We pay for the maintenance and upkeep and equipment refresh for the term, including removal at the end
Okay.
and restoring the roof to the condition it would have been except normal wear and tear.
So when,
Or you could extend it, or you could buy it out.
so after 20 years, the option is to either remove it or extend it, is that?
Or
what
buy
was
it.
Or buy it.
And there are intervals throughout the term. You're eligible to purchase it. If it makes sense. But you have a right to, in the agreement, if you're so inclined to buy it at some point in the future.
And I just had one question for the school committee. Who'd be monitoring this after it's installed? Is there somebody that's going to be taking a look-see to see if it's doing what it's supposed to be doing, or stuff like that?
Well, Matt can probably address that better than I, but Matt's team, and they have remote access in
Great.
to do all the monitoring of that the solar and everything is working appropriately. I don't know if you want to expound on that.
Yeah, so in the agreement, we say it's going to make this much energy in kilowatt hours per year, each year. If it doesn't meet a threshold of that, then we're obliged to pay liquidated damages for the difference between your cost of grid delivered power and what we're selling the solar energy to you for. So you're at like 13.5 cents, and say we're at 9 cents and we miss, we'll cover the 4.5 times the number of kilowatt hours we missed. So there's that. The second is, so contractually, you're protected to make sure that we deliver, and you'll get that much solar energy out of the system. The second thing is, we install at our cost, but with your internet connection. So you gotta, give us a run and keep that thing running for the term. Anyone with internet access, any device can access the production data coming from the solar monitoring system, which is considered revenue grade, and it's technically acceptable to the Mass Department of Energy Resources and ISO New England. So it's right. And the contract also has provisions that say if you see some delta, you can require us to go inspect it and fix it, and then potentially true up anything that was off. The final point I'll make on it, or at least at this point, is we're usually pretty darn accurate on the forecasts, and it's a 3-year average. So remember in 2016, it snowed like crazy, and it kept snowing and freezing and snowing and freezing, all that stuff. We were really down in that Q1 production, but we wound up having a drought that year. And we had like 6 great solar months, and we actually outproduced as a fleet. We manage about 600 systems in Massachusetts through a network operations center in Hopkinton, and we have a fleet of field-based technicians who physically repair systems, either under warranty or, in this case, under asset ownership. And we're highly incentivized to keep your system as productive as possible, because the more energy it makes, the more energy you buy. So we've been able to perform pretty well. You guys will have the data that says, here's how much solar, we consumed, and here's the updated Eversource bill with the kilowatt hours that you netted consumed out. And the product of adding those two together is what you consumed for that period. Does that make sense?
And this is a project the school's ready to move, that the school committee's accepted, and
We discussed it at our last meeting, and it'll be on the agenda at our February 5th meeting for a final vote. There was some questions whether this was going to the select board or whether it was going to the school committee for approval. And we also had the purchase agreement reviewed by the town council, which we just received back today. So we are looking at and there were some suggestions. I don't think there's anything in there that's going to change anything, but definitely, some suggestions and some language changes from the town council, which Marlene, I know you've reviewed, and Matt's has looking at it, and we're looking at that as well. So we anticipate a vote at the February 5th school committee meeting.
so town council's reviewed this already.
He has, and town council and I spoke this morning by telephone, and he said, he's fine with the Board of Selectmen weighing in on this project, but he sees no reason why the school committee cannot vote to accept the agreement.
On behalf of the school committee, and Matt and John, our concern was just to make sure, because it is in fact, a town of Hatfield public building, we just wanted to make sure everybody was on board with and knew of the potential project. So we didn't want to assume anything. We wanted our town council to look at it, our school committee council also looked at it, but we figured Tom, representing the town as a whole, Tom Mullen, should have a look, and that's what came back with some of those changes. So, but to John's point, we actually, I guess you would say, the preliminary vote was unanimous, and then we've just been waiting for the changes in the contract to come through on a school committee level to then make the final vote with the
The approval
changes,
was
so.
pending review of the town council.
Yep, and the select board. So, just wanted everyone to be part of it.
All right, so,
I just wanted to verify, the only question I had was the 20-year term,
Yes.
and you said that, because that's what it's expected to last, right? The life expectancy, is that
We're
pretty much?
warranted for 25. The inverters are warranted for 10. We expect they'll go 15. The racking system goes 25. Just what was procured through the Power Options RFP was a 20-year agreement. We only will, we have modified that for larger scale, like ground mounts or parking canopies. That just cost so much, the rate is better. All the economics work better for everybody over a 25-year term. The roof projects are all 20.
Because my concern was, you also said that that would include removal at the end of that term, right? Because that's
Yes.
a big deal. Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, Chris. Question from the back.
Hi, sorry. Let me come up a bit. So, you make money through the ITC, right? I mean, okay. What about the SMART program? That's they're capped out, right? They're in block 8.
No, it's on hold, it's past block.
I know.
Yeah.
So are you getting anything off that tariff or no?
It assumes that we're going to get an incentive. Yeah.
You're assuming,
Yeah.
what, at 10 cents?
Well, we don't know the value exactly. Let's see where it comes out, because they're undertaking. So I think what the gentleman's referring to is the structure of the state incentive program is, it's in different like tranches, and they decline in value over time. So when we sign contracts, we have an open book policy that says, if you get block 5, your rate's going to be this. If you get block 6, your rate's going to be that. If you get block, there are 8 blocks in the allocated to each local utility, and Eversource West, formerly Wamico, is filled up. So we will need, the Department of Energy Resources is undertaking a review of the program, as was in the regs. When you hit a certain level of allocation, they'll take it up this month. It's going to take a few months for the regulator to update the regs with some solution. I was with them last week, and some of the discussion items are just add more megawatts to the program, move some from the east to the west, change things associated with ground, distinguish between ground and building. So there's some remedies that they've already brainstormed on it. But we have discussed this with the school committee to say, because the original, I don't remember when we first came in, but it was, well, maybe it'll be in block 5 because Eversource West is going to be heavily subscribed. And then it was like, in the week after November, it was the week of November 26th, 2,500 applications came into the program in the first week when it opened up. And because of the large amount of land in western Massachusetts, much of the, Eversource capacity out west is scooped up. So we will finalize a kind of sequence of events. Is we contract, we engineer and apply for the utility interconnection. Once that comes back, 90 days later, we apply for the incentive. When the incentive comes back, if there's a difference in incentive value, I show it to the authority, and then they decide if they want to move forward. We take the development risk on the cost of the work performed to that point. You're not on the hook for it. It's part of the benefit of being a Power Options member. So that's how we're addressing that.
Sounds like a big question. I know there's big projects. There's another 5 megawatt that's going out on River Road there.
Mm-hmm. Where is that in the queue, do you know?
They claim they started
Don't know.
back in the fall,
Yeah.
but block 8 closed down, so
Yeah.
I don't know where you guys think you're going to go on this. Because they aren't going to review until it hits 400 megawatts. I'm not,
It's this month.
yeah.
Yeah, it's this month. There was a big rush, you're right.
Have you been talking to Michael Judge to see where it's going?
Yeah, so 2 weeks ago, I was at he's referring to the director of the Energy Department, Renewable and Distributed Generation Division, right? It's one and the same. And so, yes, 2 weeks ago, they gave a presentation in Boston. I attended, asked Mike, how are you going to remedy this, Mike? How fast is it going to happen? So those were the anecdotal solutions he put out there.
What I saw from that meeting was he's gone out to 12 after 400, and they're talking about zeroing out, where actually it's going to be a negative. So,
Okay.
I
well,
was,
just to let you
okay.
know
We're
that's a
gonna-
big question.
thank you, Chris.
Okay.
So at this point, Matt, it sounds like We can still move forward, but I guess the rate is when you guys talk about the
Yeah.
blocks, just so the residents
Right.
know.
Yeah,
Those are the blocks of where you fall as a customer within those blocks is what rate you are entitled to. So at this point, we're in block 8, or what we're assuming, I guess, right?
The value in
The
the
value of
savings
the-
estimate
right.
I presented to you all
Yeah.
was based on 8.
Okay, so,
I can't
So
assume
somewhat
it's
more
going
to
to get better or
follow.
worse. I don't know what it's going to do. Rarely gets better.
so right now, this is in the
Incentives.
state's hands, right?
So right now, you're projecting a savings of 19,000 in the first year. Is that what I,
No,
no, what was our
12.
reading?
Yeah, so the printout we have was based on when it was 7.5 per kilowatt. Back when
So
we
is
started
there a
this in the
footnote
fall.
on there? What
When we
is the
started
foot-
this in the fall, we were
Yeah.
at block,
what does the footnote say
That's
on
this
that page?
paper I have right here.
What does that footnote say? Assumes.
Yes.
Assume smart block 6.
6.
Right.
So it's smart block 8, which is
2 cents more. Or
December
12,
12th.
Yeah. A savings nonetheless, because
It's
we're paying 13
12,000.
cents now.
Yeah, it's
so-
12,000 in the first year.
Yep.
So so on these size systems, the rates have been if a block drops, the rate goes up about a penny.
Right.
And vice versa, if it comes in sooner, it's about a penny each way, so roughly 9/10. So one feature of the rate is that it's fixed. It's not escalated or pegged to something, it's a fixed value.
Okay, so what's,
Once you get it.
9.5
right.
cents
Right.
is the
You-
value.
You got to get it first, though, obviously. So,
Yep.
Yeah.
It's
So
9.5
this is 2
cents
cents
fixed
difference, just, that's the
Yeah.
difference of what we've got in front of us.
from 6 to 8. Does that show 7.5 on the?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's about a penny per
Yeah,
block.
Like you said. Yep.
So it's not the best feature of the program, no doubt, is, well, we aren't taking the development, we're not going to say like, oh, we guarantee it's 9.5, the incentive comes back, then it's like, well, do you want it or not, is kind of that's pretty straightforward. So we've taken this approach. In other towns, in other service areas where there's been like, where there is more capacity, or earlier, before the applications were all submitted, we're signing off, like, if it's block 3, it'll be this, if it's block 4, it'll be this, if it's block 5, it'll be that. And then when we get it, we amend the contract with, it is this, to be as plain spoken as I can be. So that's up to you guys to determine. I think the school committee is consistent with what we discussed previously.
I mean, you're going to be locked in for 20 years at a fixed rate, so you're going to save, and you're not maintaining it or paying for it. You guys are taking care of all the maintenance,
Yeah.
so.
So we make money with the tax credit and the incentive and the energy sales, and so, but Power Options does make sure that we don't make too much money. We happen to have done dozens and dozens of them because this program is attractive even at the lower ends of the incentive values, so a lot of other communities have been moving forward on
Well, I
projects.
thank you for coming in. I don't have any more questions. You
No,
guys
thank
have any
you,
more
Matt.
questions?
Thank you.
Thank you for giving us the presentation about Select Energy
My
and
pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for your support. And I'll be back in touch with Marlene over.
And that's going to be sending a sample pilot,
So
payment in lieu of taxes agreement for us to look at. We're
Yep.
interested in
And
entering
then-
into a payment in lieu of taxes agreement with the town. That
And
would
there's a
be
couple of
for-
different ways that can work, right? So one of what we talked about in the school committee is the pilot can go and lower the cost of the electricity if the money gets rolled right into the program. Am I saying
Yeah.
that right?
So we have operating expenses
Yeah.
to maintain everything, insurance, equipment, monitoring, people, trucks, all that stuff. Taxes are another. And so we need the certainty of a fixed known cost. This proposal, not the Block 6 one, well, the Block 6 one has one in there too, but the Block 8 budget has a pilot assumed in it. So there's money aside. Some communities elect to work with those numbers. Some determine that their assessor should get as much as they can. It's a cost. It's transparent. We take the, $3,500, I don't know the number off the top of my head, And if it's, some communities have signed dollar pilots, where the school or the end customer is the ultimate beneficiary of the solar. Others say, we want it in this pocket for other requirements. And the good news is, there's money in there. Question is, where would you like it? So we can propose it in the pilot for $1, or we can propose it for the numbers that are in there. We discussed, I'm sending a template with the values in it. It's not transformative. It's not gonna, fund pensions and things like that, but it is some consideration. And it's a 20-year term, and it declines by 3% for the term, because there's less money in it, it costs more to operate, there's less money coming out of it, so the value declines. But it is for the entire term. Gives us certainty, gives you guys income or more savings. So I guess I'll look for you and perhaps superintendent to give me guidance about where you'd like those funds applied.
So what's left in this process? School committee has to agree, then the pilot has to be agreed, because everything else has been taken care of? Is that where
I think that's
we
fair
are
to
in
say.
this process?
And then we'll go through the process with the utility and the incentive, and then come back to you, keep you posted each step. Utility, incentive, et cetera. Power Options is there to answer questions or anything like that, but and then someone will work with Power Options as far as membership. It is an association, it's a not-for-profit. You do need to join in order to
Reap the
partake in the
benefits.
programs.
Okay.
Marlene and I will together.
Okay, I'm all set.
Thank you for all the time.
Yeah,
Okay,
thank you,
well,
Matt.
thank
Okay,
you.
thank you, Ed.
Thank you.
John.
Okay, we'll do minutes I didn't do minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of October 23rd, 2018.
Motion made to accept minutes, October 23rd, 2018. I'll second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any discussion?
Any?
Discussion?
Yes.
Yeah. Just on the FRTA update, you had John Cotton as the owner of Danco. I believe that's Bob Raymond in the next sentence. I think Mr. Genovese was talking about that. John Cotton is the owner of J.W. Cotton out there, just to make that correction if you had to contact them. And all set. Approve of
Okay.
that. Thank you.
Motion made and second with changes. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
Now we have Bob Wagner coming up for topic 3 with our CPC articles, and have a little discussion on the 2 articles that are going to be at the special town meeting and where you guys are at. So the update, I guess, is sort of, we have 2 articles for
Why don't you,
next
Bob, why
week.
don't you take this?
One is to purchase,
Just see, I'm sorry for the viewers. So you have the numbers in front of you that were.
last time we talked to Bob, you were working with Kestrel to see if you could come up with a game plan of purchasing of that land through Kestrel to keep that land as agricultural.
That's right. So, the question, and I noticed the article in the paper recently had it as Swazlowski-owned
Wrong
property,
name.
but it's this Swazlowski land. Yeah, so we have a petition from the landowner to have that land removed from Chapter 61A, the property tax abatement program for farm ground, which the statute provides the community with an opportunity to either exercise a right of first refusal or transfer that right of first refusal to a land conservation organization. And so when we were before you in December, it was to update you on our discussions and conversations with Kestrel Land Trust, and for that matter with the current owner of the property, about trying to effect a protection strategy for that land. We're still working very hard on it. I was meeting last night again with principals that would be associated with any plan that we could, quite frankly, pull off, I guess is the best way to put it. Because the property is, the purchase and sale agreement is for $430,000, which of course is far more than what the land is worth for agricultural purposes at 26 acres. So we need to, and this is sort of the business I was in when I was doing this for my career, is to find a way to to finance the protection of that land. And part of that would be a contribution, two contributions from the town through our Community Preservation Act funds. The Community Preservation Act can be used for open space and recreational projects, historic preservation, and community housing, affordable housing. So the CPA committee has advanced two proposals, which will go before the special town meeting, somewhat out of order. Typically, all of our proposals or recommendations to the town are at annual town meeting, but because of the time frame in which we need to address this issue, we have proposing both of these for the special town meeting next week. One is for $120,000 from the open space portion of CPA, which would go towards contributing towards a conservation easement on 23 of the 26 acres to keep that land in permanently protected for agricultural use. So it'd be similar to the state's agricultural preservation restriction program, but it would be an easement written with the help of Kestrel Land Trust to the town to again continue to protect that property. So anyone that we sold it to as a farmer would have to adhere by the requirements in that conservation restriction. We're also proposing $60,000 to contribute towards the project. That our hope would be that if the town approved this and we can actually work things out with the plan around protecting this property, that $60,000 contribution would go towards a building lot that would be donated to Habitat for Humanity to build an eligible, affordable unit, single-family house on a lot. More than likely, the lot on North Hatfield Road. There's one approval not required, 200 foot of frontage, acre. That's a 1 acre zone, rural residential, 200 feet of frontage, and we haven't used our community housing funds money from CPA to actually create any new housing. In fact, we've only used that portion of our CPA funding once in the history of the program here in town, and it was to assist with the weatherization of the windows and new windows at the senior housing across the street here from Town Hall. But we've not created any new housing with that. We did have an attempt at doing that with the Hatfield Village project a few years ago, but that didn't pass the town meeting at that time. So we're hoping that we might be able to do something now with Habitat for Humanity. I'll say that, between myself and Mark Gelada, the Open Space Committee, and working with Mark Walmsley of the Kestrel Land Trust, who you met back in December, we're putting a lot of time into this. We'll be able to tell you pretty quickly after town meeting if we are going to come to you and ask that you actually officially exercise the right of first refusal and transfer that to Kestrel Land Trust. But as I did this for 35 years before I retired. These projects aren't easy. I mean, we're swimming up against a pretty stiff stream when you've got someone willing to put $430,000 on 26 acres of raw farm ground. It's one of the reasons why American Farmland Trust exists, to try and come up with other solutions or opportunities for communities like ours to protect a piece of property like this.
Well, you got 430,000, but the town, you said putting up 120 and 60,
Yeah,
so that means there's 250,000 left over, right?
Right.
And that's where the issue is, where the 250 comes from?
Right, exactly. And if we can do that with, there's really no way to do that with just selling the farm ground. That land is not worth $10,000 an acre. I mean,
right.
Hadley Silt Loam protected is going for 10,000 an acre, but that's not prime agricultural soils. So, you know, there is the potential, as I mentioned earlier, or we mentioned in December, you know, there's almost 600 feet of frontage on Straits Road, not quite. So there's potentially 2 approval not required lots on Straits Road, and there's 1 on North Hatfield Road. So we're sort of putting those into the mix. In fact, the purchase and sale agreement that the buyer has with Mr. Slawski, actually, a contingency of that purchase and sale agreement is the approval of 2 building permits for house lots on Straits Road. So at a minimum, we know that there's going to be, if this project goes, if we're not able to protect the property and come up with an alternative that we can work out with Kestrel Land Trust, you know, the fact that the purchase and sale agreement is contingent on getting 2 approved building permits on Straits Road, we're going to end up with 2 houses, you know, in likelihood on Straits Road, plus whatever else goes in there. And we know from, you know, as you all know, I also serve on the planning board, and when this issue came up before the planning board, we asked the realtor directly who was there what the plans are for this property, and he said unequivocally a subdivision. So, you know, at a minimum, we're looking at 2 houses on Straits Road plus. And, you know, that's a tall order for the town to deal with, you know, new road, maintenance of that new road, additional maintenance requirements on Straits Road.
Now, we're under a time limit here, right?
Right.
Because
Right.
February 5th is way, I understand.
Yeah.
February 5th, we have to have a decision, right?
We have to have a decision by February 5th or 6th. Did we decide it was?
Town council concurred February 5th.
Okay. And then once that decision is made, and if the decision is made to go forward, we have 90 days to close. Which actually, quite frankly, the buyer and the seller are not going to be able to close until after April 1st anyway, because the Board of Health has shut down perk tests until April 1st. And if this purchase and sale agreement is contingent on getting 2 building permits for lots on Straits Road, you're not going to get those building permits without perk tests that are approved by the Board of Health. So, you know, we're looking at, if we do February 6th, we've got, you know, March, April, May 5th or 6th. I would hope that if we can move forward, that we would be able to move as quickly as possible. But quite frankly, that's only a month out from what, I mean, at a minimum, even if they do the perk test on April 1st, when the Board of Health reopens their window for perk tests, you know, the earliest they could close on this property is April 2nd. And that's just looking at the contingencies in their
Yeah.
P&S.
I mean, if town meeting doesn't approve the articles, then,
Yeah, I mean, this is a nothing ventured, nothing gained at this point. If we don't, if the town meeting rejects both, then we're done. If the town meeting, you know, accepts the open space one, but not the housing one, I think we would want a bit of time before we came, you know, an opportunity to reconfigure and rethink. But again, if both of them fail, you know, we're done. We've tried hard with your acknowledgement of the importance of protecting farmland for agricultural purposes. This isn't land that someone isn't interested in. You know, it's been farmed for a long time, and we know of and have talked to 2 farmers in town who've approached, you know, the group. You know, it's pretty well, you know, publicized what's going on here about wanting to get on that ground or stay on that ground. Yeah.
Okay, yes. Yeah, you had mentioned the road, and I'm just thinking water and sewer, in addition to that, but I had a question for the town administrator and you, if you know. Are we sure on the funding that you have available, the 120 and the 60, is that good? Because I was looking at the financial stuff that came out today, and there was some questions about, are the balances still the same in the CPA, as far as we know?
To the best of my knowledge, and actually, I think back in December,
Yeah.
there was information from Bay State Municipal Accounting Group. So I think that those are pretty solid numbers.
Yeah, we have,
We're good with
we
that?
definitely have, between the open space fund and the general reserve fund, we have more than enough to cover the 120 for the open space. For the community housing, we have a $195,000 balance in that account, because you have to set aside 10% of all the monies received and either utilize that money at 10% each year or set aside that money, and that accumulates. And so we have a growing balance in that community housing pot of funding, which we can't use for anything else.
Right. Thank you.
Brian, you have any questions?
I don't have any questions. I just want to thank Bob and Mark and the farmers
Yeah.
and everyone else who's had some input, you know. I think, like you said a little bit earlier, it's certainly a nice try and a nice effort for all of us. And the February 5th date, just so people understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, that's actually a date that we're working backwards from the original purchase and sale, is that, or the
Well, we're
original?
working back from when the town was notified
Notified.
of the
So
purchase.
we had so many days
Right.
to.
Correct.
And February 5th is that day.
Right.
To say we are or are not interested
Right.
in exercise. So I just,
Yeah.
we talked about the date, but I don't know
Yeah.
if the people understood exactly what that was for. So
Yeah,
that's the reasoning for it.
Right, yeah, there's
I mean,
a-
actually, we either have to meet on the 5th or a day before
Right.
to make that vote.
Well,
to
and
stay.
Marlene and I have been talking about that, and we need to, Marlene has been involved in this quite a bit as well. And in fact, I was hoping maybe I could catch up with you tomorrow, and we could go over
Sure.
the timing of all of this and the recent email from our town council.
Okay.
May I ask you a question, Bob?
Sure.
So do we actually want to, if the two votes, one of the votes, however this plays out at town meeting, passes,
Mm-hmm.
are we still looking to actually wait till that last possible day in February to
No, I don't-
vote?
well, I think-
Or is that the key, and once in other words, I guess what I'm thinking is if it passes, we could vote that night
Well-
theoretically, right, if it's posted?
Well, no, because I think we would like, and depending upon how those votes go,
Yeah.
we'd still like to, get together
One
with
more
the
week
Kestrel
to-
Land Trust
Okay.
so that we can actually make sure that we really have everything,
Okay.
all the ducks in a row.
Sure.
I mean, they're willing to go at risk in terms of, borrowing the funds from, there's a major national organization that provides funding to the local land trusts. They're a bank in effect for land
Sure.
trusts to borrow the money to put up front for something like this. But they want to make sure that
Pays
all
back.
the takeouts are pretty much set up and ready to go.
Got
But
it.
if 4 does not pass, then we should table 5.
Excuse
right?
me?
If Article 4 doesn't pass at town meeting,
Is Article 4 the open space one?
yeah, the 120,000.
Yeah, if that one doesn't pass, then we might as well table
Table
Article
5,
5. Right,
Okay.
right.
Bob,
Absolutely.
just a reminder that
Yeah.
we also have knowledge that it's possible that we could get an extension on that 120 days.
That's right, and that's part of what I wanted to talk to you about.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
One
More to
question?
follow.
You got a question?
Okay, so you said 250 is left over if we do the two articles. How do we get, has a realtor said those two lots on North Hatfield, no, on the Straits Road, those would be worth what? Have we established a value?
we're working on that, Chris.
Okay,
Yeah.
so to get to the 250.
Yeah,
Let's say you got 60 or 70 grand for each one of those lots, so that you still would have the difference. Has any farmer, I know Daryl wouldn't buy it, but has any other farmer come along and said, because back in the day, and when we were working on the master plan, the problem was when we talked to Daryl, who was farming that land, he says, you got a rainy day, I'm up to the axle in the tractor. That comes, which bodes another thing.
Well, wait. Let me just stop the conversation now. We need to be very careful that we're mentioning names and that we're asking questions about personnel and who may or may not. I mean, I think it's a fair question, Chris, to say, have any farmers come forward?
Yeah, fine.
Or shown an interest, but we're not going to name names.
Two
So.
farmers.
And if they suggested a value?
Yes,
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you see getting to that 250?
yes.
They're working
Yeah,
very
I
hard
wouldn't- I
trying to
wouldn't have
come up
been
with
out
something.
Last night till 9 o'clock working on this if I thought that there was nothing to this.
Well, I do appreciate all your
Yeah.
time and effort on
Yes,
this.
thank you.
And you and
Hope
Mark
it works
and
out.
trying to see what you can do to keep it. And hopefully we'll wish for the best, right? And thanks for the update. And I know people have questions for you at the special town
Yeah,
meeting.
no, I'm sure, we'll be prepared for that, and thank you for this. Were there any other, on the other questions about the other, we have another CPA article, but that one is.
Yeah, that's kind of just, that's almost a
re-up.
bookkeeping,
Yeah, that's
right?
right.
It's a, yeah.
That's
Yep.
right,
A
Yep.
redo.
okay.
I don't know what that
Okay.
is.
That was for our agenda, number 3, I gave it to Bob because I
Yeah.
didn't know if those questions were going to come up. So I'm actually going to need that back, Bob.
Okay.
I mean,
is
it was
that
it was the financials, but I didn't,
Oh,
he didn't have
okay.
any paperwork, so I didn't know if he
Yeah,
needed,
right.
Right.
but we'll
Okay.
get you a copy of that
Yeah,
stuff.
because that's not really relative to the community preservation.
I just wanted you to have what we were talking
Good
about.
luck,
Thank
Bob.
you.
Good luck.
Thank you,
Sharon,
Bob.
you're up next if you want to come up front, please. Topic 4 will be the Assistant Treasurer Collector, Sharon, on flex spending and employee benefit program.
Hello,
Hi, Sharon.
how are you?
Good, how are you?
Great.
Good game Sunday.
Good.
Thank you, Sharon.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Bob.
Sorry.
Colorful.
I'm gonna let John look at yours. 'Cause you don't need it. I don't think you want to keep it, but that way you can follow around. It's not that interesting. Okay, hi, guys.
Hi.
So, as you guys may or may not be aware, but we have been asked in the treasurer's office on numerous occasions whether we be willing to offer a flexible spending account program, I guess, for lack of a better word, so that our employees can contribute money to an account, pre-tax dollars to use for their health insurance needs. This was asked even before I started here a year and a half ago, so there has been numerous times where this has kind of come up. But I actually went to a meeting where I finally found an option that might be viable for us. In current, plans, there was talk of the treasurer's office running it, and that would mean us taking in the money and managing these accounts, and we just don't have that capability for the 200-plus employees that the town of Hatfield has. I say that, but really it's only for full-time employees, so that cuts it down to maybe, 80 probably full-time employees. But that's still a lot to put on the treasurer's office to manage. So through the Hampshire Group Trust that we use for our insurance, which we met with the gentleman from last week, he provided me with some information. I had gone to a presentation from American Fidelity, which is a company that comes in and manages this process for a town, so that we don't have to take on the responsibility of managing people's information, how much money they contribute, whether it's actually being used for the right costs and the right goods. So this is a little presentation he put together, and I kind of stole some of the stuff that I thought was pertinent to ours. It was much longer. Marlene and I and Edwina met with him, I guess it was in January, and kind of got this information. So American Fidelity is a group that offers benefits and services for public employer groups and employees. So they do this for the public sector for many towns, but they also do it for the auto workers unions. That's one of their other big groups. So this is what they specialize in. So there's just a little bit more information about them on the first slide. Then the second slide talks about the towns that are in the area that actually already use them. So Chicopee, East Hampton, Hadley, I guess Deerfield's a new one that just because of this presentation I went to has now joined on to them. So other people in the area are using the services. So the next slide, which says services at the top, I think is the most important one, in that what they're going to be able to do for us if we decide to go forward with them, make a partnership with them. So I guess there's some added benefits to just having this relationship than just the flexible spending account. So one of them is they'll provide the town with an updated section 12225 cafeteria plan document and ensure that it remains compliant, as well as administer the plan for you going forward. So this is one of those binders you keep in your office and you never actually open until the day you get audited. So they help us get that binder up and running and going, because there's a lot of rules and i's that need to be dotted. So that's something they would do in addition for no fee for us. They would also set up the flexible spending account for us, and that's what I'm going to go into a lot of detail in a minute. And they would also provide some other volunteer benefits that we don't currently offer our employees. And I think one of the biggest selling points to me was that they help with the employee education, because I'm not an expert in this. And, if Cindy, you're the employee, I don't want you coming asking me questions and me not being qualified to answer them. They have a staff to be able to come in and say, this is the right thing for you as a family, or the right thing, because they're trained at those kinds of things where I'm not really. So going forward, in the next slide is talking about the FSA administrative services. So they do this for 4,000 employees nationwide. They have 4,500 employers, 180,000 is in employees. They do upfront funding for the health flexible spending. They use the debit card system so that you can use this money. There's online claim submission and a mobile app for it. And they also help with the employee education and enrollment. I left a few slides because I wasn't sure that everybody knew what FSA, the flexible spending, really meant. And in 2018, the government said that you can put away $2,650 before you get your taxes taken out of your paycheck, pre-tax dollars, to pay for co-pays or for glasses or for prescription drugs, all of those extra healthcare costs. They're giving you a break and you don't have to pay taxes on them. So that's kind of what the account's meant for. It contributes for the, in the next slide, lowers the employee's taxable income, making each dollar stretch further depending on the tax bracket of the employee. And the interesting thing about their plan is the full election amount is available the first day of the plan. And election changes require calling and providing events. So if someone left us, there's wording in here about how to protect the town in case someone left mid-year. So that's one of the important things you have to think about with flexible spending. So how does it work? So an employee determines that they want to do this annual election amount at open enrollment. It's evenly deducted from paycheck to paycheck on a pre-tax basis and placed in an employee's account. The full amount is available on day one of the plan to use on qualified out of pocket expense. So there is a little tiny bit of risk in that you get it all up front, but there's insurance that's built into it so that the chances of us having to pay out of pocket is very small, because we would buy into that insurance, so that if someone did leave mid-year. You can also work off of their last paycheck and have them pay some of it back out of that. So qualified expenses, like I talked about, were co-pays for co-insurance, dental. I didn't think of orthodontal, eye exams, LASIK surgery can be used for these types of things. So then, you get a FSA card, so that if you are at CVS and you're buying stuff, you can, go through the register, they ring it up, and they swipe their debit card. Any item that is qualified, it comes up on CVS's screen saying this works for a flexible spending account, and it'll come off of their balance. The rest they could pay for out of pocket. So it monitors it for us, which is better than, us having to manage this plan. So then they gave us a little example. So if somebody who made $38,000 put in, $500 into a flexible spending account, and then based on the taxes, they could end up saving $133 out of pocket to go towards medical costs. So this is just a little bit of money that a family's putting in, knowing that, $500 in the world of healthcare stuff isn't very much. They could, get $133 more out of that money because they didn't pay taxes on it. So that's kind of what flexible spending entails. The last part is about the volunteer benefits. So the big question to me when I watched this presentation was, well, how much does Hatfield have to pay? Brian and I are on the same page.
Correct.
So it actually doesn't cost us anything besides the insurance that I would suggest we get to protect ourselves if somebody did leave mid-year. The reason why it doesn't cost us any money is because they want the opportunity to sell other services to our employees. That being said, we have some of these benefits that they offer already through our group trust, in that we have long-term disability and we have life insurance. So those aren't things that, we already have a partnership, we're using Boston Mutual, like, we're all set. But they offer short-term disability, accident-only insurance, cancer insurance, and critical illness insurance. So these are things that we could offer to our employees and say, listen, these are available to you. Even if nobody takes any of these extra insurances, it still doesn't cost us anything for us to use the flexible spending part of their program. So they're taking the chance that someone's going to be interested, and that's kind of where they're gonna make their money, and they can afford to do business with us. So how does that kind of work? Looking at that, the system in place. And so that's kind of where we had talked, open enrollment, and when does this fall into place for us? Because I went to this presentation last summer and I said, let's just kind of hold off for a minute. So part of the open enrollment would happen. So we have now switched, so our open enrollment dates are in May, the first couple weeks of May, for July 1 start date. So in that time period, I always send out a letter to all the employees that are full-time saying, do you need to make any changes? Do you want to add something? Because this is the time to do it. In that same time period, we would be offering these services. So American Fidelity would come out and have workshops with our employees, and they'd be group big meetings, 5, 10, whoever signed up could go to this meeting and get the information. And then if you were that interested, you would go and have a separate meeting with a one-on-one counselor to say, okay, what is the best fit? Because one of the concerns is you don't want to put too much money into it and then not use it. So that's why I was impressed that they had salaried employees that are on payroll to do this versus commission employees. I'm sure we've all sat through the life insurance, trying to sell it to you because they make money off of you buying more life insurance. There's no commission in any of this. So these are salaried employees that we can call on any time if we need advice for our employees, but they also do all the open enrollment for all of that. So it's not something that I have to add on to my to-do list. In open enrollment, they do their part of it. If we do have a new employee, mid-year, which happens, they'll do a phone call interview. If they have to come out, they certainly will. They're only in Springfield, but they start with the initial, is this something you're interested in? And kind of, approach our employees through that manner versus, coming out and they're not interested at all, making that trip. Or if we recently at the school, we've had a couple. So if we had 5 new employees or 4, we certainly could do another info session for that. So I wanted to bring this all guys to you. Is it formally that I need you to vote? No, this is something the treasurer's office can certainly do with the capabilities that we have. But I felt more comfortable coming to you guys and talking to you and answering questions about, whether this is good for the town, bad for the town. So I'd like at some point an approval to say, yeah, you think we should go forward with this. Next steps. So the enrollment will occur during health insurance open enrollment. They'll hold information sessions. I think I actually already talked about these.
Which is in May, you said.
Yeah,
Now,
in May, the first 2
so
weeks of May.
basically what you're saying, if I got this right, because I haven't, this is the first time I saw this.
I only got it a little bit
this
myself.
is
I
sort
couldn't
of-
get it open.
This is sort of a tax deferred savings account that you can
Exactly.
use for medical, dental, and
In a
vision.
lot of other lines of business, it's actually called an HSA.
HSA.
So that's what a lot of people are looking for, it to be called a health savings account, where in the municipality world, it's a flexible spending account. Same difference, you put money away before the taxes to be able to use for health
Okay,
insurance.
so they put money away, then how do they access their money afterwards? Do
So
they?
that's where the debit card comes into place, so they could use it at a store or if they're at the doctor's to do their copay. The other option is if they paid for something and they want to get reimbursed, that's where they can send the receipts in, or they have a mobile app so you can just scan your receipt and submit a claim. And then the third part that wasn't really in this presentation about what happens if there's money left at the end.
That's my
So,
question.
there's a
too.
couple different options about how we want to move forward that I wasn't even sure we were going to be interested in this, so I didn't give you the long presentation on that. I can certainly come back with that, but there are 3 different kind of steps that it can be, is that you use it or you lose it.
Right.
you can have a grace period that lets you carry it into the next fiscal year for part of the year. Or there's also a third step that I didn't go into a ton of detail with him about because I really don't think the town wants to be taking employees' monies. That's not our goal. But in big business, the world's a little different. I do know that they have something called an FSA store, so that if you are approaching whatever timeline we decide the money expires, they can go and they can buy medicines and, cough drops and heating pads to use up the remainder of their money.
Qualifying
Yep.
expenses.
So the things that they qualify, instead of going to CVS, you go on here and these things will work and you can buy it right from this website to purchase. I checked the website out. It was pretty cool. It had a bunch of stuff. So if you, didn't factor in quite correctly and you have some extra money, you don't just.
Well, even if the town votes to go with this, then it's still up to
Exactly.
employees'
So this is a
choice,
no risk
right?
to us. I know that, I think it was 3 years ago, they talked about doing this and they did a little survey of employees and I think there were 3 that were interested. I don't know how many are interested. It gets brought up a lot to me, but I don't know. But at one point, it doesn't matter because there's no risk to the town.
Right.
If I go and say, to Rich is the guy we've met with, Marlene and Edwina and I, and said, okay, we want to do this. Yes, I have to do some groundwork to get it up and running, but it's up to the employee that whether it's the right fit for them. As a single individual, I don't have any kids, so maybe it's not the right fit for me, but it might be for somebody else. So
I guess what I would say that if I were an employee, I would need to sort of check my past records, and if I'm single or married or have children,
Yeah.
I have an idea how much I spend for co-pays and medicine. So you can save up to $2,600, but you don't have to save that.
exactly, you could put in, you could put $500, you
So
could put $200.
some people may want to just the first year sort of
Yeah, and that's actually 100% what they recommend.
lowball it
Low,
and then
go
say,
low
oh man,
and-
I could have gone a little higher, or if in fact they're going to lose it at the end.
Exactly.
Because nobody wants to lose their
And some,
hard-earned
they
money.
never, none of the plans say you can just roll all of it over. They want you to, use it. and
HSAs
lose
you
it.
can.
Yes,
FSAs,
you
they're
can't-
different.
Exactly, and because of the way the government oversees us as a
Correct.
municipality,
Yep.
we have to have some kind of deadline. It's just what that deadline is and how we let them use it to, not have them literally lose it, because none of us want that,
So from your perspective, Sharon, and your office's perspective, so there's no, if we have 1 employee or 100 employees, there's no cost to the town, other than a little bit of insurance to cover
Exactly.
ourselves.
And my notes said, I think it was $10 a month.
Yep, that's okay. So my question is, while it's managed by the FSA account or the insurance company by American Fidelity,
Yep.
you guys, from a payroll perspective,
Yep.
have got to be notified probably by American Fidelity
Exactly, just like.
to say this, Brian's putting in $20 a pay period,
Exactly.
and so that to take that and reclassify
Right,
it as
exactly.
pre-tax
Yep.
versus post-tax.
So we
right?
have it
So-
already set up because we already have some things that fall in those categories.
okay,
So our
good.
payroll program's set up to do it.
Perfect.
So we just turn that feature on.
Yep.
So if an employee right now, this isn't pre-tax, but an example would be
Yep.
the long-term disability.
Right.
You sign up for that, I have one piece of paper, I sign you up for it, then it comes out of your paycheck. We
Great.
mail the check then to American Fidelity monthly.
Perfect,
So-
got it.
Well,
I
should
think
we,
it's-
should
go
we
ahead.
be trying to find out if employees are even interested in this?
They're interested.
Well, I've definitely heard
I
there's
can
some
tell you
interest.
one group of employees that's very
Well,
interested in
and I
this.
was just gonna say that, I asked to present today because John was gonna be here, the superintendent, from the school side of things tonight, so I said this would be a good thing, because I know that, that's the group that I've heard, is the teachers have come to me and said, oh, is this something we could look at?
Have they looked at this yet?
No,
Oh, okay.
We're first.
so
Can
I've
get
come
some
to you guys
feedback on
first.
this maybe from the school side? I mean,
I would,
Well, it's an employee as a whole side, I mean,
Exactly, so I don't know that we need, because there,
We can
this
certainly
group
share it
is-
with
we
the-
can share it, and I'd be happy to do a meeting with them, but I'd like, if we decide to go this way, I would certainly let Rich come and do the presentation. But given that there was no risk to us, I think it's a win-win. I don't know that we need to pull them and spend the time doing that when there's no risk to us. Because there's gonna be 1 or 2, I think, that might be interested, and even if they don't end up being interested, at least we can have a win that we were able to give something. I mean, I think all of us know that the employees in town are working super hard right now and struggling through the times we're going through. This is something we can give them to save some money and actually give them something back for,
And it's awesome, because I signed up for the first time this year with
Yep.
my company, and I had to get new eyeglasses. And some of it was covered by insurance and some wasn't. I gave them my debit card, and $154 came off the card, and I got my glasses, and I felt like no money out of pocket. right?
Exactly.
So,
You- and
because
it-
it was already on the card. But-
Exactly, and it was already out of
But-
your paycheck, so,
Yeah.
because, it was already kind of saved for you. So I think from that perspective, that's why I was like, okay, well, I was really, one of my first questions besides use it or lose it was, okay, what if only one person signs up? Like, what happens to us as a town? And they don't, that's their risk to take. They, felt comfortable with that. I mean, you sat in the presentation, did I miss anything?
No.
I probably talked too much and said it
I think
out
it's
loud.
just, I mean, even if people aren't sure if they're going to use it, we all have some sort of, whether it's a medical expense or it's a medical supply that you don't necessarily think of. So I think it's got to get out there, and I think it'll pick up some steam, because,
And like I said, we'll have the info sessions, so they'll come,
Yep.
Before May, so that we can set that up and
That was-
say, here's some different times you can come listen to this to get information as a group,
Yep.
and then take the information home with you, so you don't have to sit one-on-one to begin with.
Right.
You'll listen to the same stuff that I heard and kind of say, oh, does this fit my family? Take the paperwork home. And then if you are interested, you can move forward. And if you're somebody who's not interested at all, you don't have to go to the info sessions,
Right.
then it's just something that doesn't apply to you.
I think if we're able to do the info session for town employees in March or April,
I was thinking April.
then they have a chance to go back and look at their medical expenses and say, I can't believe it, I spent $4,000 last year, and say, oh yeah, this is a no-brainer, or I only spent $500 and that's how it's been, then just put in $500, whatever. It's
But I
going to
mean,
save you taxes. That's the bottom line, right? It's going to save you having to pay taxes on whatever
something
you
you're
put
already
into this.
spending anyways.
Correct, so.
But I mean, if we vote at this or the next meeting, it gives us a chance to read the information.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I'm
And,
sorry I
uh,
didn't get it to you sooner, I couldn't
No,
get the
Sharon's not in a
PowerPoint.
rush for it,
No,
but
I'm not in a
thank you.
rush, I
This-
just wanted to present it while John was here.
We appreciate it, and it's
I'm
informative.
here every week, so.
And thank you for finally, you and Edwina, getting this done, because it was asked a few years ago, and,
Well, it was actually asked by the teachers to look at this. And at the time, some of the things we looked at were not as good as this, quite
Right.
honestly, because it involved either financial commitment on the part of the town.
Yep,
yeah, it was a lot different. It was-
Yeah, or
we're managing the
Or
finances.
managing
Yeah,
it.
yeah, it was.
Correct.
And that's what scared me.
basically takes care of all of the concerns that we had 3 years ago.
Exactly.
This is, I'm impressed with what I'm reading.
So I think, I'm not asking for a vote, I just wanted to present it, get it to you, get it to John, read it
Yep.
over, you certainly can keep that one, so you can read it over. And then, shoot me back when you have questions, and the next time, the next couple weeks are busy with special town meeting and stuff.
I think it's great.
We can, put me back on the agenda to finalize it up.
I would appreciate some feedback from John after he gets a chance to go through that.
Yeah, let me know if you have any questions, I'm
right.
available, so. That's all I got.
Thank you, Sharon.
Perfect.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for all your time and effort.
My public announcement from the treasurer collectors is excise bills went out today, so there's more bills, I'm sorry. All I do is bill this time of year, but, so they'll be due February 21st, and real estate bills are due February 1st, because they're on time this year, so.
Can we
come and
use
see
our FSA account to pay our excise?
You can't pay for either of those things, but you can come see me and I'll give you a candy out of the candy dish.
Oh, great,
Get
thanks.
you caught up so we're not behind. All right, thank you, guys.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Sharon.
Thank you, Sharon.
You're welcome.
Okay, topic 5, town administrator report, so.
Just a question, did the board go back to the special town meeting discussion and have a discussion about anything about that, or, okay.
Well, we were gonna
Okay. The
have
warrant
that
has been
discussion
po-
if
right.
need be.
No,
for the
if you
meeting.
have questions
Oh,
or would
yeah.
like to. Obviously, the warrant has been posted. The notice of a special, I think the warrant is on the town's website as well. And we'll actually do a roll call to
Still there.
set this special town meeting.
Yes, the remote call would be nice, and tell everybody to bring their cell phone so they can call people if need be. But we have, all the players will be there for the special town
Yeah.
meeting,
5 articles
and we're going to meet at 6.
at 6 o'clock in
Okay.
the community room at the elementary school.
Okay, so, you have a discussion on those
No,
articles?
thank you for putting this together. I
know
mean,
if
it's nice
there's-
to kind of have the breakdown of what had been approved. This is.
I was wondering why you have several pages of that?
I do.
Oh, okay, it's just one sheet.
Maybe it's twice.
They're all the same. There's 4.
Oh, it's just one sheet.
maybe I have
But I
everybody's
was wondering
copy.
why
Did you
I
want
had
one? I have 4.
copies, so I had made copies and
Well, in
so-
case we lose
okay,
3,
well,
we'll still have another one left.
Oh, you could have given Bob.
Yeah, I didn't, I thought it was a whole
No,
pack.
they're all the same.
Yeah, 4
All right, so
copies.
thank you for the breakdown, but
Okay. All right, so moving on to town administrator's report. Yeah, the first item I have is for discussion with the board. It's regarding a comprehensive regional human resources partnership, and we received communication from the Hampshire Council of Governments. They are partnering with the town of Hadley to provide municipalities with access to human resource services. A part of this will involve a regionalization grant through the Community Compact Program that the Commonwealth has. I'm sorry, it's an efficiency and regionalization grant. And this will involve, interacting or actually issuing an RFP and working with an HR firm. They would provide the initial support with developing a portal where participating members, municipalities choose to participate in this program, can access documents, share information. And one thing that's lacking with most communities in Western Mass is you don't have the HR staff, or you rely on other people or your town council. And if the board is interested in pursuing this, Hampshire Council of Governments has asked for a letter of support if you're interested in exploring this. It
Now, you
doesn't
said
commit
it's a
you
grant,
anything.
right? So,
Well, it's not the Hampshire Council of Governments, in partnership with Hadley, would be applying for the grant.
okay. But right now, when you say the word grant, I'm thinking no cost to the town.
At some point, if we decide to be a partnership, join the partnership, there will be a cost later to municipalities. I have no way of knowing what that cost would be because I'm sure the HR firm is going to need to be, they'll be compensated for their services. I think at some point they expect that the portal will be self-operating. So the partnership, you have this portal, there will be some fees involved. But the letter of support right now does not commit a municipality to anything. It's just expressing support.
Okay, so it's just a letter of support and
Correct.
no commitment.
Correct. If the municipality decides to join the partnership, then there would be costs associated with that.
And because it's the HCOG, there's their fee also for doing that, right? Because everything they do has that 6% added on to it. I believe it's 6% now, or 6.25%, or something like that.
I'm not sure what you're referring to.
HCOG, any of their projects, there's always that administrative fee for HCOG when they're involved.
I see what you mean.
Like our IT agreement with Paragus.
Regarding programs.
Yeah, because HCOG is involved.
Yes.
There's always
And
that
that could be
percentage
applicable
fee,
to this.
yeah.
They have not said that.
Yeah, I think it's on everything that they're involved in.
well, I think we should confirm it,
we could
if
do
that's,
that.
if that's a question.
Well, I
Yes.
did confirm, I had asked
There will
Yeah.
be costs.
Mr.
yeah.
Ford about
Sure.
future costs, and he did confirm that, yes, there would be.
Down the road, well, because grants expire, right? And then you still have the program going. So, I mean, even this, but to your point, Marlene, the last sentence on this says, please note that your expression of interest in no way commits the town to any service or expense. So, I mean, I'm fine with finding out more about it and see if it's worth it on a go-forward basis, especially for HR and the questions that come up for our town and, which have to rely on Marlene or some of the members that were on that original HR committee. And, we don't truly have an HR department, right? So.
Correct.
I think this
I
think this could be beneficial.
Well, I think it would be a very helpful tool, to be
Yes,
honest,
yeah.
and the documents that would be available, or resources that would be available to you.
Totally agree. I think, but to Cindy's point, I think ultimately, though, we've got to
Find out what it is
yeah,
going to cost.
yeah,
No, I
yeah.
agree, I agree.
Year 1, 0, and then year 2 beyond, how much? And
That's
maybe they
right.
don't know that yet.
Yes.
I mean, in fairness to them, if they're just applying for the grant now. But
Yeah.
I think that's important information, should be, before we sign on a long-term.
I agree.
But I'm fine with the short term, just
I'm fine
showing
with a
interest.
short term,
Letter of
too.
support, so
Yeah.
I can draft that letter of
can sign it.
support and
Okay.
have the chair sign
Hey,
it.
well, Cindy, and you want to
There's
vote
a
on that?
motion made to support it. I'll second the motion. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, no discussion.
you,
Motion
Ron.
carries, okay.
Following up to Hampshire Power cost increase, I spoke with a gentleman at Hampshire Power. As Hampshire Power is the electric supplier, and this is all from municipal town buildings. And the state increased the requirements for renewable energy portfolio due to pricing changes incurred by the Hampshire Power as a result of expansion and changes that were previously taken care of by Hampshire Power. Hampshire Power has passed on that cost, that increase, to the customers now. And I had reported previously that it appeared, based on a spreadsheet they had sent me, that it was less than a penny. And he did confirm that, the representative of Hampshire Power. So a very slight increase, which is a cost that Hampshire Power used to take care of. However, that notification, I'll just note, if we were not interested and we wanted to opt out, we had 30 days. That 30 days has passed. But we've been with Hampshire Power, I believe, since 2009, according to my records.
Now, the solar presentation we had tonight regarding the school, is this going to conflict at all? Because this is all towns' municipal accounts. Is there any overlap there at all? Do you know?
No, I don't think,
That wouldn't be an issue if they do the solar
I don't
with the
believe so.
agreement that we have with Hampshire Power?
I'm certainly, willing to talk to Hampshire Power about that, but I don't think there would be any interruption in service or
Not
conflicts,
interruption,
you
but
mean?
if we have an agreement with them for all towns' municipal accounts, will the
it-
solar have any?
Well, I don't think solar
So it
would.
wouldn't-
No,
think
I don't
it'd be
believe.
Separate.
I don't believe so either,
Right.
and it's only lowering the cost.
I was just gonna say
It's
there would be
not
a savings
we're
with the
not-
solar.
Yeah, we're not,
Right.
it's not a cut the
Yeah.
cord type thing from
Yeah.
Eversource, or however that, works out.
Eversource.
Yeah.
Or Hampshire Power, well,
Yeah, however it's getting ultimately to us. Yeah.
I've provided you with a financial update. Just gather that here. I had spoken with Justin Cole. This is regarding fiscal year 18 reconciliation process. Bay State has approximately gone through 14 warrants. I'm sorry, 14 warrants are left to rebook out of 53 warrants. They're currently working on debt proceeds. There's some issues. Justin had indicated that he's spent a significant amount of time looking at fiscal year 16 and 17, trying to trace back the original records, original proceeds, to see how and where they were booked. He's also looking for approved school choice money allocated for projects. And as you may recall, one of those projects was the band room, and that showed up on our recap as a deficit. And Justin is looking at that. That money may not have been posted.
But that entire project was to have been paid from school of choice
That's
funds.
right. That's right.
That wasn't a part town and a part school choice.
Right, the money
It
did
was
not
all
come
coming right
all
out of
from
school
school
choice.
choice.
So,
Right. So I have to believe that it's a bookkeeping
yeah,
error.
no doubt.
Yeah.
It's accounting error.
Justin had a discussion with the auditors last Friday. Before they start the audit, they would like to see the town provide sufficient backup or true reconciliations of all processes. And the auditors feel that this is something the town hasn't been able to do, hasn't provided that information in the past. He's still working on booking reserve fund transfers that occurred in 18.
Can we go back to that last one? About with the auditors?
auditors?
I mean, that's
Sure.
something Justin and his team are going to put together, though, right?
Yes. They
I
will
mean,
be-
I know they want the town to do it.
Well, the town,
But on our
right.
behalf, it's them.
That's correct.
All right, I just
That's correct.
just wanted to make sure I understood that.
And he would be
And he's
working
right, I
with
get
other
it. I mean,
department
yes,
heads,
yes,
getting
yes,
that
yeah.
information as
Okay.
well.
Yeah, so when he says he'd like to see the town provide sufficient backup and true reconciliation processes, the town does need to do that, but we're going to be looking to Justin and his team and their expertise for doing that.
That's right.
Okay,
That's right.
thank you.
And lastly, with fiscal year 18, community preservation records agree with expenses, so that's all good there. Justin noted that the reserve balances and the CP1 and CP2 documents, and those are documents that are filed with the Department of Revenue, were not correct, accurate. I hate to say that.
Or to quote it,
Oh,
completely wrong.
Completely wrong. I know, I was trying to
Yes.
be a little subtle about that. So that was disappointing to see that. And I think, based on that information, that confirms the difficulty that CPC had with trying to get accurate information, numbers from the accountant's office. Fiscal year 19 update, they have closed through November. They've requested the December cash book from the treasurer so they can begin to reconcile December. And they've also requested the payroll information for January. So they'll be working on reconciling the January payroll in December.
Almost all caught up, maybe. We're
Getting there.
Finally.
Town hall maintenance repairs. As you know, Town Hall was closed last Friday for repairs, so we could resolve issues with the heating system. That was all taken care of Thursday afternoon. Actually, the whole repairs seemed to be flawless. It was a team effort. Cody and Sons was here Friday morning and started right away. Thursday night, actually, the water employees were here preparing for the project, and so it just went very well.
Good team
Actually, under
effort.
the repairs, I'd like to point out that they had to cut the floor to get to the pipe because the pipe was broken
And through this-
in the slab.
Yeah.
And I think down the road, there's got to be some discussion on possibly the heating system for Town Hall at another time. But the pipes are
Pipe was in
original.
pretty rough shape.
The pipes are in rough
Yeah.
shape, so.
Yeah. They're the
Just,
original.
Footnote.
Original.
Too bad that's not in part of the project.
No,
To get it done
is
before
not.
anything's built
Yeah.
over it.
That is correct.
But no, that was a good team effort from everybody involved.
It was,
That
yeah, they did a
Kind
good
of all came
job.
together and worked out the way you hope, so thank you.
With the assistance of, or actually, I received from our accounting, Bay State Municipal Accounting Group, a list of procedures, steps that I'd like the board to adopt. And I actually had forwarded those to Justin had sent them to me. I reviewed them with Edwina and Sharon. We made some small edits, and I'm just waiting for Justin to send that back. So I don't have that information tonight. I had hoped to. And just reporting out with other departments from our department head meeting. The fire department's working on a local hazmat incident exercise that they'll be doing in the very near future. As Sharon mentioned, motor vehicle excise tax bills went out. There was about 4,100 bills, and the commitment is for 480,000. Board of Health inspections are all current and up to date, and that completes my report.
Thank you.
Any questions?
I don't have any questions. I know Bay State's working hard to get everything straightened out, going back over the years, and it's been a long process, but we're almost
Yeah.
there.
Agreed.
I feel their frustration, and I did let Justin know with an example, as an example, the reserve fund transfers. They're trying to research, or looking for information. So I let him know that if there's anything I can do to research on my end.
Because once we get to that municipal accounting,
Your mic.
There you go. Good?
okay, good. So once we get to the switch over to Massachusetts municipal accounting the next time around, then that should help us with the whole process. So,
Yeah.
Or if you can look at it as all the negatives are actually a positive, because everything he finds that's wrong, that's what he's getting paid to do, is find the
Yeah.
wrong stuff, put it in the right
Yeah.
direction, and, it's clear for the next
it's
year,
like having an
coming
attic with
years.
all this stuff
'Cause
up
that's what we
there,
hired
and
him for. We want him
you
to
keep
find it.
finding
You know,
stuff.
But we want him
it
to.
needed to happen,
We want
though.
him
It needed to happen.
Yep.
There's only one way to get it done, and
Once
that's the
and for
right
all.
way, yes.
Okay, continued old business. Do we have any old business that needs to be discussed? Signatures? What is this?
I know Keith said there is something regarding filing a report with the, is that with the Department of Revenue or licensing? ABCC, yeah, needs to be
For
signed
the-
off on.
For the new license? Oh, for all of them.
Oh, that was with renewals.
All right. It's just a signature thing. Okay.
Good. Okay, have anything else?
I do not.
See you all on Tuesday. Motion to adjourn.
Well, before we adjourn, just a reminder, next week, special town meeting.
Elementary
Hopefully,
school.
you all can be there, and we'll have a lot of discussion. The architects will be present for discussion, along with Bob Wagner will be present for discussion on the articles. So I do have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made, motion second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Have a good night.
Thanks,
See you
John.
next week.